Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and a blessed and Merry Christmas to everyone watching, because we are still in the midst of the Christmas season. It is more than just a day. It is a 12-day celebration. The day is so full of joy, so full of importance, that one day is just not enough. And so that's why throughout the history of the church, we have traditionally the 12 days of Christmas, starting on Christmas Day itself, leading all the way up until the Feast of the Epiphany on January 6th, which is the Feast of the Three Kings, of the Magi, etc. And so we are still in the midst of this Christmas celebration. So once again, another Merry Christmas to everyone out there. I hope that your Christmas is continuing to go very, very well. And I hope that y'all are doing swimmingly. Let's go ahead and say hello to the people in the chat, because it's episode 590. Oh my goodness, 590 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast. And tonight we're going to talk about Avatar 3 versus Zootopia 2's box office, because of course it's just, oh man. The comments section on the Avatar videos is always interesting, because the random fans who actually do apparently watch those movies and actually care about the characters in those movies, they seem to all of them, all 20 of them, find my channel and post the random comments in the comments section. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy those films, but I think that if we were being honest and to say people who are actually like diehard fans of the franchise who actually want to go and see those movies every single time, multiple times over, buy it, watch it every year for an anniversary, I don't think there's a whole lot of people out there like that. I'm sure they exist, and they mostly exist in my comments section. So we'll talk about that. We'll also, of course, be talking about 2026, because we're just a few days away from the new year. So an early Happy New Year to everyone out there. And it's kind of crazy that we are already done with 2025 and that 2026 is amongst us. And so we'll start to talk about, pardon my French, start to talk about some of the movies coming out next year, because I'll be honest, I do have a most anticipated movies of the year list, but I don't think I'm very passionate about any of the films on there. There might be one or two that I actually do want to see, that I actually would say is actually an anticipated movie. A lot of the other ones on there, I really feel should just be like a honorable mention, or more so I'm intrigued. I'm kind of intrigued by the concept of this movie, and who knows what will happen with it. Basically, that's kind of where I am with 2026 films. And we really didn't have that great of a year in film in 2025 either. We had some good films come out, of course. Every year there's always good films. There's always some gems that oftentimes don't get looked at and seen by a lot of people. But for the most part, especially when it comes to the mainstream Hollywood fare, a lot of it is just leaving so much to be desired. So we'll talk about that also tonight. And please make sure, smash that like button. Make sure you smash the rumble button if you're watching over there as well. And let's say hello to the people in the chat tonight. I did see a name pop up earlier, and I have to highlight it because he's a friend from a long time ago. We worked at a movie theater together. Matt Levine, what's going on? Matt Levine, 1978, saying, dude, I can't believe I just found you on YouTube. I can't believe it either, man. Like, what things have you been watching to lead to this channel being recommended to you is beyond me. But welcome. Glad to have you here. And hey, I miss you too, man. I miss you as well. Great to see you in the chat. Hope the family is doing swimmingly. With the youngins, especially with Christmas time, it's that magical time, but also it's a bit chaotic as well. So, Matt Levine, welcome to the channel. Glad to see you here, man. All right, let's go ahead and say hello to the people who have been hanging out in the chat since earlier. Let's see, we got Gandalf, 1477. That, of course, is Kimberly G. Killian Shadowcat. What's going on, Kimberly G? Again, why YouTube changed it to the usernames, I'll have no idea. But she's saying here, I'm looking forward to Dune 3 and Night of the Seven Kingdoms. As far as the shows are concerned, yes, I think there's a lot more shows, a lot more TV shows next year that I'm much more excited for rather than the movies. Because Dune 3, I'm actually dreading Dune 3. And it's because after the changes that they made to Dune in Dune Part 2, especially with the just completely out of the blue, unnecessary change made to the character of Chani, that to me, I think is going to lead to a Dune 3 that's going to be really, really bad. Because if he was already starting to hint at how he's going to deviate from the books and how he's going to deviate from that world, in favor instead of like more like modern day audience stuff, modern day identity politics stuff. We kind of got a hint of that with what happened with Chani's character at the end of Dune Part 2. I'm sorry, I don't really want to see a movie where she becomes like the main character or that she becomes like the hero, because it's just not realistic to the story. And I'm not even the biggest of Dune novel fans, right? I've read the first book, and I thought it was actually, I liked it. For the most part, I actually enjoyed it. But everyone always told me, hey, just kind of stop there. Don't worry about reading on past that, really. There's some who are fans of it, but in general, people who really like the first film, or rather really like the first book, weren't as crazy about the things that followed. But what I can say for sure is that was not the character of Chani. That was just a randomly made-up character that they decided to give the name of Chani to. And I just have no interest in that. I have no interest in seeing Zendaya go girl boss. I think that most of us are kind of tired of that, right? Dune, obviously having that more, matriarchal structure to it with the Bene Gesserit amongst others, still is like a patriarchal structure. And it just does not make sense with what they're trying to do with her character. General Wingster has become a member once again at the Citizen of Asgard level, saying hello to you. He was at 4:26 p.m. today, so getting some of the earlier comments. We got Bruce, who was here at 4:37, saying, see at 7:30. We are here indeed. Snorapoopas saying, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snorapoopas? Welcome back. He then said, hello. He then unfortunately mentioned this, saying, sorry, but this aging bear is tired and not feeling up to snuff. So heading to bed early tonight, have a fun show. Thank you very much, Snorapoopas. Appreciate it. Master of Gaming is live. What's going on, good sir? Wendy Hunter. Wendy, who's a member here, saying, evening. Good evening to you, Wendy. Welcome back. Always great to have you here in the chat. We got Prince Screen hanging out as well. What's going on, Prince Screen? Welcome back. Banjo Sandwich. That's Gary the Banjo Sandwich Worthington. What's going on, Mr. Banjo Sandwich? Appreciate you being here. Lady Tharp of Hastings, recent winner of one of the giveaways on the giveaways channel on the Discord server. She is a Keeper of the Bifrost member or above who get access to that giveaways channel. So congratulations to you. She just won the 4K Steelbook of Twister. So give away 4K Steelbooks amongst other things there. So congratulations to Lady Tharp of Hastings. Glad to have you back in the chat. Alrighty then, let us see. Where else are we? We got Thanatos. What's going on, Thanatos Felicitas? We got Ruben Haynes hanging out as well. Jeremy Sikowski, what's going on? Jeremy saying here, evening Odin, everyone on here. Good evening to you. Shorty Short, Laura, the Mother Major General, Story, Shorty Short, what's going on? Saying, wow, 4:30 snuck up on me. That's right, she's on that California time. We got Morak saying, hello, Odin. Thanks for being a member, the Morak. He says, I hope you and your family had a blessed Christmas. I did my homework and have my list of anticipated movies for 2026 when the topic comes up. Very cool. Very cool. I did my homework as well. And it's not that exciting, unfortunately. We're going to have yet another meh year at the box office. But glad to have you here. And yes, we are continuing to have a very blessed Christmas. Today we had the feast of Saint Thomas Becket, and one of my favorite saints. And so we made a cake in celebration of his feast day. Banjo Sandwich saying, Happy New Year! An early Happy New Year to you as well. We got Mr. Roy, who is a Chosen of Valhalla member here on YouTube, who just comes in to say, hello to you. Welcome back. Prince Green saying here, I hate to be the one to ask this, but are we just going to skip a number when we get to episode 666? Probably not, just because I am not I'm not superstitious. Superstition itself is a denial of the power of God. So I will, again, it'll just be a number. That's it. Gandalf. Kimberly G saying, hail Odin in the beautiful chat. The chat really is beautiful. It really is a beautiful chat. It is. Wendy Hunter saying, Odin chat, happy early new year. Happy early new year to you. Short saying, I just Googled 2026 movies to participate in the discussion, and I'm horrified to discover a Sense and Sensibility remake is planned. What the actual... Yeah, seriously. I feel like those movies get remade every few years. Luke Zilla, what's going on? Saying, hello. Hello to you. Matt Levine, thank you very much. I appreciate the subscribe. All right, Prince Screen, who is a member here on the channel. Remember, if you have a comment or question, just put at Odin at the very beginning of the comment, at Odin. It lets me know they're trying to get my attention. And Prince Screen, who's a member, doesn't have to do that, but does it anyway, and I appreciate it. So Print Screen saying, have you seen the trailer for Animal Farm? Unfortunately. I can't believe Angel Studios chose to waste their time with buying it. Animal Farm is not the book to turn into a generic kids movie. Honestly, when you think about it, though, Angel Studios, they make their own content, but then they also distribute various films throughout the year. And my guess is that they saw the name, they saw that Andy Serkis was attached directing it, and that's what they were sold on. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Now, if they knew everything that the story was going to do, if they knew how basically it was going to be turning Animal Farm into a non-Animal Farm, it's like, okay, instead of communism being the bad, the evil, it's going to be capitalism. It's like, okay, that's kind of the opposite of what the book and the original story goes after, but okay. I would be surprised if they actually had known about that beforehand, if they had been. But if they did, I think that tells us a little bit more about Angel Studios, unfortunately. And it's not good. I personally think and hope that it was rather because they're like, okay, we need to get more eyeballs on screen. We need to get more views because, let's be honest, their films don't typically get a lot of people watching them. You look at films like Sound of Freedom, and that's like the diamond in the rough. That is the rare exception. It's the only film that they've ever had that's gone as viral as it did and as successful as it was. Even films like David, which had a lot of anticipation amongst the Christian community as well, hasn't really been doing a whole lot as far as total box office is concerned. I mean, it's good and great compared to all the other Angel Studios releases. There's no doubt about that. But in comparison to A Sound of Freedom or any other film studio, I mean, there's still a lot to be desired. So my guess is that they thought we need a couple of films that might be able to get more eyeballs on the studio or, you know, pull more people our way. I don't know. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But not a good trailer. Guillermo Gage, thank you very much for a $5 Rumble rant over on the Green Machine. One of two, saying, a couple of months back, I recall you talking to Little Thor saying, hey, buddy, I'm working. And it made me think, yeah, I guess your wife lets you do those streams because of extra income. Okay. And then says, for a $7 Rumble rant, appreciate it. It might not be the same hourly return on investment as your teacher job, but it's like 6 hours a week of making videos. You're good at it, and you deserve to have more. I think that was supposed to say subs, because I don't want people simping for me. Really don't want people simping for me. That's not a good thing. But I appreciate the Rumble rants, Guillermo Gage. Appreciate always your support. I mean, I do it for fun. I do it because I have fun with it. I've said this for years now. The moment it stops being fun is the moment I walk away, because, you know, I'm fine having the smaller channel. You know, we have got 40 people strong watching us over on the YouTube side of things, and I'm fine with that. You know, we've had days where it's gone up to 80, it's gone up to over 100, and then we've had the rare stream where it is maybe even closer to a couple hundred people, right? But those numbers don't really mean a whole lot to me, because what matters more is the community that we've built, which is an awesome little community. We meet for about 90 minutes or so once a week. And unless there's a holiday, in which case we might miss a week, in fact. And we come together to talk about movies, pop culture, box office, especially box office, but also other things too. And that's what I really love about it. So yeah, I do it because it's fun. Really, the income, it's minimal. It basically pays for the hobby. As we like to say here at the house, right? It's like, okay, it helps me to pay for movies, to go watch them, to buy extras so that I can give them away. That's what it's able to support. And I like it. So thank you very much for those Rumble rants, Mel. I appreciate it. Good sir. All right. Back into the chat, and then we'll start talking about our most anticipated films of 2026. Thanos Felicitas at 736 is in the chat, of course. Jenna Wingster, who, of course, has become a new member, saying, I shall henceforth be known as Zandelli, and I will exile anyone who doesn't agree. Well, if your username does not change to that, I will not remember it. Zandelli? Interesting. Zandelli! Matt Levine, time to say, I watched my favorite movie of all time in the theaters with... Oh, wait! Are we talking about Whiplash? We're talking about Whiplash? Because, dude, I've been getting clips of that in like the shorts and reels that I watch. And every time I get to one, I'm always like, okay, now I got to go watch that full scene from the film, because that is still one of my favorite modern films. Like, it's up there, top 3 best modern films, I think. Shorty Short saying, most anticipated movie, 3 words, Scary Movie 6. I thought they were on, oh wait, I'm sorry, I was thinking of Scream. Oh my goodness, I totally even forgot that there was a scary movie. Let's just say that did not make my list. Let's just say that did not make my list. J.S. Pena tagged to say, saw fire and boop, ash. With my dad, meh. It looked good visually, but overall, meh. Yeah, I mean, that's why when people say that they have fun, that they enjoy themselves, I have no issue, right? I have no issue if you say you enjoyed it. That doesn't make it good, all right? Doesn't make it a good film. And the fact that those movies have lost audience every time, and with these new numbers coming in for number 3, we're getting the same exact figures. We're getting, rather, the same exact story that we got with Avatar 2. Smaller numbers, less people going to see it. And just like we saw a massive drop from, these are unadjusted numbers, by the way, from $2.9 billion for the first Avatar film down to $2.3 billion in 2022. We're looking at this film being a sub $2 billion film. And again, you think, well, that's still over $1 billion, and that's still 1.5 plus billion. That's still pretty good. Well, budget's $400 million. And Valiant Renegade, shout out to Valiant Renegade, I was watching a little bit of his stream last night, was talking about how because of the way the financials are working for these movies, Disney's actually not getting a whole lot of the money on this. Most of it is actually going to James Cameron and his studio. So, again, I don't know all the details of this. I'll let Valiant Renegade explain it better. But essentially, the majority of the box office profits, almost entirely for the vast majority of it, are going to James Cameron, going to his production company. And then Disney is getting distribution cost. So they pay for the rights to distribute the movie. And so therefore, whatever their cut is, he was saying numbers like 30%. So of the total box office, they'll get maybe 30% of the profits. So not of the total box office, but of the profits left over after the fact. Because it also means that they, as the distribution company, also paid for all the marketing. And they probably spent a good $150-200 million on marketing alone for the movie. The question is, how much net profit are they actually getting? They're going to get something for it because this is going to be a big movie, okay? But because it's making less and less and less over time, it means that they're making less and less return on investment. And at the end of the day, we're talking about a company that for the year was already $1 billion in the red for theatrical releases, okay? The only film that's actually making a massive dent for them in any foreseeable way is Zootopia 2. That's the only film, because that film is tracking towards $300+ million in net profits. So after everything is taken away from how much they spent on the production cost, the marketing, $300 million plus net profit, net gains. Could be even higher than that. But because of what we know about the Avatar relationship between James Cameron and his company and Disney's company, obviously Disney's getting a part of that. They also get the exclusive rights to stream the movie on Disney+. So that's obviously going to bring eyeballs to them as well. They have to pay for that, though. So the question really is, how much profits are they actually getting from these movies? Disney's not getting as much as you would think. They're not getting nearly as much profit as one would think that they would be. So it's fascinating to see. But it's amazing when people who are like simping for the film want to ignore the reality of the box office situation. Let's see. Master of Gaming. Bro. All right, Master Gaming, I'm going to skip your comment, man, because I haven't mentioned my list yet. Why are you going to ask me a question about it? We're going to go through it together, man. Come on. Master of Gaming. Bro. Not cool. Geek264. Can't believe 2025 is almost over. I agree. Zon Deli. Well, thank you for changing the name. Zon Deli. Guillermo Gage, thank you for another $2 Rumble rant, saying I might check YouTube, but I don't see the Ravens voting list on Rumble chat. Well, the bot that I have only posts to the YouTube chat. So, unfortunately, you'll have to either go there or go to the YouTube, because unfortunately there is no community section on Rumble. At least last I checked, there wasn't one. So I can't post the link there, unfortunately. So if you go to the community tab here on YouTube, you'll find the link posted there. I've posted it on the Discord. I've posted it on on X as well. So I try to post it as many places as I can, but Rumble doesn't give that option. And my brain just cannot say, oh, let me go ahead and copy that link and paste it over. Because we all know what happens when I try to do two things at once. My brain doesn't quite work all the way. Wendy Hunter saying, sorry, I didn't do my homework, but didn't want to miss your stream. Hey, no problem at all. As I said, you're really not missing a whole lot. There really isn't a whole lot coming out next year. Zondelli saying, hello, Gandalf. I'm Girl Boss. I shall pass. Oh, my goodness. Zondelli. And Zondelli was born on that fateful night. Luke Zilla, what's going on, Luke Zilla? Saying the movies I am looking forward to are Werewolf, Odyssey, Dune Messiah, Avengers Doomsday, Mortal Kombat 2, Spider-Man Brand New Day, 28 Years Later, The Bones Temple. Oh boy, Luke Zilla. Couple on there, I would say I would agree with, but Doomsday, man, I'm sorry. The only reason why I'm looking forward to that one is to see how much of a train wreck it is. Everything about that movie screams giant cluster bomb. It'll make money. It'll probably make a lot of money. Luke Zilla. I've heard some rumors that the ending scene with Chani will mean nothing because she will still be Paul Atreides' queen and have his kids in Messiah. Interesting. Then why do it? Why try to set up for something that's not actually going to come to fruition? That's the dumbest. That makes it even worse. Because it's good that he's correcting it, but if he's not going to go out of his way to say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, I'm going to correct it in this movie, then at that point it becomes narratively a giant question mark of, what the heck is going on here? That's not the direction she was going at the end of the movie. Anyway. Guillermo Gage, let's see, tag to say, I still got to watch episodes 4 through 7 of season 5 of Stranger Things because December 31st, I'm seeing the series finale in movie theaters. Netflix makes no money from this. It's food vouchers, dollars for the theater. Well, I don't know what the actual deal is with them, but they're going to get a cut, okay? Because you got to keep this in mind. Theaters don't show films to be kind to the studios, right? It's a mutually beneficial relationship between the two. And as Matt Levine knows, if he's still in the chat, he knows, yes, okay, he did indeed confirm it was Whiplash, yes. Still one of my favorites of all time as well, Matt Levine. But as he knows as well, because he worked in the upper echelons of movie theater life, as I did for a bit. And when it comes to the movie theaters, they typically still, even in special cases like that, they get a cut, all right? And what happens is the bookers, people who are in charge of booking actual, IPs, they are that bridge between the studios and between the theaters. They say, all right, the studios want to show their film. You want their film. Here's what the studio is asking for. You get their movie if you do X, Y, and Z. They're usually pretty standard stuff. Disney is one of those exceptions where they always ask for way too much. For instance, if you have a ability to show 3D movies, Disney will say you can't have our movie unless you promise to show X amount of 3D showings. And if you don't do that, then you're in violation of your contract, and then they could pull the movie, or more likely there's probably going to be some like financial penalty or something like that. I've never gotten into all the details of financial penalties or anything to that extent, but still, they could do something, right? They could pull the film if they wanted to because of the violation of the contract there, okay? But ultimately, the studios make, again, fair amount of money in the opening weekend, right? The opening numbers. The only thing I could think of, since you're kind of implying this, but again, I can't confirm this with any, I have not looked at the data myself, is because of the speciality of this specific property that maybe Netflix would, made a deal with the theaters to say, all right, you're going to get a 50-50 split here on the opening weekend. That would be kind of the thing that would make the most sense to me, because a studio is typically not going to ask for less than that on your opening or only weekend showing of a movie. All right. So I don't know what the whole food vouchers thing is referencing there. Zondelli is a member saying, Gandalf, I come to you now at the first light of the 5th day. Odin, I'll simp into your DM. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that, Zandelli. I really don't want that, okay? This is me telling you no. I do not give my consent to that. Geek264, True Odin, do the channel for the love of the game. Absolutely. Geek264 knows all about that. If you love physical media, check out his channel. Awesome stuff. Yes, indeed, Whiplash, such a great... I remember seeing that film. I can't remember how many times I watched it. I remember at one point in time, I watched it I think it was the first time maybe I watched it. Because I think I watched it the first time maybe without you. I think I had said like, dude, you have to watch this, man. I watched it again. Because it was like about to leave theaters and there was like a showing early in the morning and there was one other person in the theater or maybe that was the second time actually. And it was so fun to watch. Yeah, it was the second time because the whole time I couldn't keep my eyes actually not only off the movie, but also off of this other person in the screen because literally I got to see his reaction and he was like on the edge of his seat during that entire finale. And I'm like, dude, I totally feel that. I understand. I remember the first time that I watched it, I was like, oh my goodness. Guillermo Gage saying, I got the shared Netflix password, almost never watch it. Gotta be careful with that because they could take down the whole account there. Short saying, do you think Doomsday can live up to the hype? I'm doubtful. As far as the quality of the movie, no. I do not think it's going to be able to do that. I think that what it's going to be is a giant monstrosity of a story. It's going to be like Endgame. There are people who liked it, people who still to this day even say it's a great film. I remember when I first saw it, I said, this is just garbled nonsense. And the story and the narrative was just messy. And you thought about Infinity War and just how strong of a movie that was, right? That's a film that I would still be able to go back and watch and say, man, remember when the MCU actually had some quality to it? Because there's at least like there's at least the semblance of a sensible storyline there. You get to Endgame and it's just like mess. I remember when I watched it in theaters for the first time, the first time that all of a sudden, they kill the big bad within the first like 5-10 minutes of the movie, it immediately took me out of it. I said, okay, I can't take this film seriously now because you had all this buildup to the biggest bad that they've ever had to face. And all these things are happening to them. And then even though the whole thing was meant to be like now they have to go back in time and all this, then time travel gets, it's a mess, giant mess. So I don't think it's going to live up to the hype as far as it being a good movie. I think it's going to make a lot of money, but it's also going to cost so much money, I don't think they're going to make a profit off of it. Vivander. What's going on, Vivander? Saying, all this hullabaloo over the Odyssey. Folks should check out The Return, Ray Fiennes and Juliette Binoche. It's a great small-scale retelling of Odysseus' retaking of Ithaca. Interesting. I'd never heard of that before. I do like Ray Fiennes. Master Gaming, what's your least anticipated movies of 2026, and why is it Wuthering Heights and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow? I don't have a least anticipated, but those sound awful. Kevin Davis. What's going on, Kevin Davis? Welcome back. Oh boy. Is this one of the, oh boy. I think we found one of the Avatar simps. I didn't read the whole comment, but I kind of gathered that. Let's see. Even if Avatar Fire and Ash stops at 1.6 to 1.8 billion, that massive hit film, they aren't going to disappoint at all. Stop with the clickbait. There's nothing clickbait about anything I do. I'm always factual. I always back it up with the data. If you were to actually watch the movie, or either, in this case, watch the actual videos and listen to the words that I say, you would understand, hey, the film is going to make over $1 billion. The film is going to make over $1.5 billion. I even have said the film is going to make profit. But if we're talking about Disney's cut, that's a whole other animal. As again, Valiant Renegade kind of blew that up a bit last night because I had not heard of that before, but it makes sense that actually majority of the profits are going to go towards James Cameron and his studio, and because it's co-financed, and so Disney's not going to get a huge cut of that, but then also the majority of their money is going to come from the distribution side of things with whatever their distribution rate is, but because of how much they spend on marketing, that actually cuts into their overall profits quite a bit. That's all I said. That doesn't mean that the film is flopping. That does not mean that the film is a failure. But if we're talking again about long-term success, when you go from 2.9 billion to 2.3 billion, these are not adjusted for inflation either, because in reality, it's like 4 billion, 3.5 to 4 billion, dropping to 2.3. That's quite a staggering fall. It's a lot of people not going to see your movie the second time around, right? And now we're seeing it drop again by another $300 million or so. You can only sustain that for so long. You can continue to simp for this movie, Kevin. All right? You can continue to simp for this movie. But don't come in here, into my house, and try to say that I do clickbait, because I don't do that. That's not something that I do. I put facts and data points. I'm all about the math, guys. Don't worry, we'll get to it officially. Geek True 64. I still love the first Avatar movie. That's your right. But 2 and 3 are just disposable entertainment. I would argue the first one is as well. Think about what the story is and how it just copies and pastes from better movies. Only saw them once, probably won't again anytime soon. I've mentioned this before too, and Geek Truth, I know you did appreciate this because, Geek Truth 64, he is a physical media guy, okay? I respect anyone that has any of the avatars, even all 3, if it's specifically because they want them as reference material. And what I mean by that is they want to be able to say, hey, you got somebody over, you want to show off your system, whatever it might be. You want to show them a film like Avatar because James Cameron is going to make sure that the quality of your physical media is the highest possible. And so it's going to give you some of the most beautiful images that you can show on your television screen. So it's going to be one of the best things that you can show visually. The sound design is also going to be very good, right? And so it's going to be one of the best things you can show for showing off your sound system too. So it's reference material. That does not mean that it's good. That does not mean that it's a good story. That does not mean that it is anything other than reference material. Because that's really what it comes down to. James Cameron had in his head an image, and he wanted to put that image on screen, but then he didn't really want to think through all the details of his story. And so instead what we get is a giant mess of a narrative that's just a copy and a paste and a copy and a paste and a copy and paste of other films and other stories that have been done way better. I always like to mention Fern Gully, okay? Fern Gully meets Dances with Wolves. That's what Avatar is, with giant blue Smurf people. That's what the general narrative is, right? And now we're getting to the point where the second film's copying from the first film, and the third film is now copying from the second. So now it's just a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, which was already photocopied from multiple different places. It's a mess. Narratively, it is a giant mess. Jeremy Zakowski saying, only movie I'm really looking forward to in 2026 is Godzilla Minus Zero. Bro, I'm going to be honest. That film did not even... Bro, is that film still coming out in 2026? Because now I'm mad because I did not see that on my list. I did not see that in the list of movies that I was looking for. Let me double check this. Is this film still coming out in 2026? Okay, because it's still a lot of stuff to be announced. Let me see. Okay, all it says is release date 2026. It was announced in 2025. It's set to be released in late 2026. I would not be surprised if that film gets pushed back. So that film did not make my list because we don't have an official release date yet. We don't have anything official from that one yet. And so because of that, it's not on the release slate. And so therefore, anything that's not on the release slate is not going to be a part of my list. But I will say, if it does actually get released in 2026, absolutely, that will be my most anticipated movie. I'll just give that spoiler right now. So, okay, so not only is he an Avatar simp, this dude's just a Disney simp, all right? The Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars of Black Panther, they're going to make money for Marvel. Doomsday is not. Dude, do you realize that before anything and anyone else, they're already spending a good like $150 million like per movie for like 3 people? That's without any of the other cast. You're talking about a movie that's going to probably cost north of $500 million, just your production budget. It'll likely be one of the most expensive films ever made. And guess what? If you make a film that costs $500+ million, you have to make $1.5 billion just to break even. And I'm not saying that the film can't do that, but to try to say like, oh, it's going to be this huge money bag, it's going to be a huge... You don't know that. What I do know, because what I know is Marvel films have not been trending very well, with very few exceptions, and those are giant films with a lot of people in them, things like Deadpool Wolverine, for instance, which, again, I enjoyed, and that film made quite a bit of money. Could have made even more if it was even of a better story, right? But they can't keep relying on that, because the problem with that movie was, after the fact, we found out that film cost a lot more than what we had first thought it was, which meant that massive profit margins that they saw was actually not as high. And that does make a difference as time goes by. But you keep on simping away. It's okay. Leave your logic at the door. It's all good. Zondelli, Godzilla, -1, Master of Gaming. My most anticipated movies of 2026 are Masters of the Universe, Oh, man. Psycho Killer, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, bro. Coyote vs. Acme, Clayface, and Dead Man's Wire. Why in the world are you excited for Supergirl? You asked earlier about one of my lists, and then you put Supergirl on your list? Bro, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what are some of the biggest movies coming out in 2026. What are some films that maybe we should start getting excited for, right? Now, I've already mentioned when it comes to this list, Godzilla Minus Zero, unfortunately, is not going to be on the list officially. That's because we don't have an official release date. All we know is that the plan is for them to release it in 2026, okay? That is the plan. If that actually does happen, if we do get a release date, this will absolutely go to the number one spot of my most anticipated films of 2026. No doubt about it. But that is not what we have currently. Okay, so let me go through what I think are the films that I'm looking forward to. Now, again, giant caveat. It's not because I think these films are going to be great. It's not because I think these films are going to be fun, great storytelling, big box office hits. No. It's because either I have a genuine intrigue in what's going to happen. I, don't know enough about it. And so it's more of that could be interesting. And in the rare exception, there are a few on this list where I'm like, oh, okay. I'm actually looking forward to this quite a bit. But anyway, let's go through the list. So first, I have an honorable mention. So I got 15 films that kind of caught my eye as I was going through the list of films with an official release date. And that first one is Coyote vs. Acme. This movie, was made. They decided they didn't want to release it, was put in the vault, and then was saved, right? Somehow or another, someone bought the distribution rights, and now it's actually going to see the light of day. So I'm intrigued just because I want to see what Warner Brothers decided to write off, to basically cancel for a tax write-off what they thought this film was or wasn't, and just to see how good or bad this movie actually is. So this is, again, not because I think the film is going to be great. It's more of I'm actually intrigued by what this film is going to be because of all of the story behind it, right? Of it being canceled. And again, of them trying to write it off for the taxes because they just didn't think it was going to do well, I guess. We'll find out, though. We'll actually have a chance to get this, to find this out in 2026. Another honorable mention is the film Madden. I'm intrigued by this. I think that this could be good. This is obviously about John Madden, right, for football. But the most interesting thing, we actually got a first visual today, I think, or at least the last couple days, and it's Nicolas Cage as John Madden. That's right. Nicolas Cage is playing John Madden. And then you have Christian Bale as Al Davis, John Mulaney as Trip Hawkins, Kathryn Hahn as Virginia Madden, Sienna Miller as Carol Davis, Shane Gillis is in it, Sergio Duque, David Lengel. I don't know the really rest of them on there, but that's a pretty good list of names there of actors and actresses, okay? And even though I think Kathryn Hahn was a part of one of the worst Marvel events in history with her terrible Disney Plus show, she's still a very talented character actress, okay? So I think that she could be good in the film. This is a David O. Russell movie. David O. Russell was on such a strong... He had so many good films in a row. And I want to say, what was it, American Hustle? Where all of a sudden, everything just fell from grace. I remember when that film was getting nominated for all the Oscars that year, I was like, what in the heck are they not? This movie was terrible. It was so boring. I remember watching... That was actually a film that came out while I was working at an AMC. And so we went to go see it at night. I fell asleep. It was so boring. I tried to watch it again. I fell asleep again. It was so bad. It was so boring. And ever since then, and then that went on to win no Oscars. It was one of the biggest losers of the night because it had one of the most nominations, and then went 0 for whatever money it was, 0 for 12 or something. It was awful. And ever since then, he really hasn't done much. He hasn't really, picked himself back up from that. So this could be, again, maybe return to form. It's about an interesting person in John Madden. So I think that, enough time has passed that we could potentially get a pretty good film about him. And also, the selling point to me, though, Nicolas Cage as John Madden. I'm very interested to see what he does with that. So not really thinking the film's going to be great necessarily, but Nicolas Cage, always a factor here. All right, number 13 is Social Reckoning, honorable mention. This is a follow-up to The Social Network. And instead of it being directed The same tandem of Aaron Sorkin being the writer and David Fincher being the director. Now it's Aaron Sorkin who's going to be, I think, both writing and at least directing, but I think writing as well. So I like Aaron Sorkin as a writer. He's very talented, has written some very good films, and a follow-up to The Social Network could be interesting. Now, they're recasting a lot of the characters, and so that could make it where it's like, maybe, I don't know, but I'm intrigued by it, right? Aaron Sorkin has me intrigued. Another honorable mention is the film Michael. So this is, of course, a film about Michael Jackson, and honestly, the trailer wasn't it for me. The trailer did not give me hype for it. I had a lot of, I know that it's his nephew, I think, that's actually playing him in the movie, like his real life nephew playing him or something like that. But even with that family connection, it just really didn't look like him. At least I didn't think that it really looked like it. Just, I don't know. There's something off about the image of him. And again, obviously that's an early trailer. We have a long ways to go with this one, but I'm intrigued by it. Okay, I'm intrigued by it. And this is also a film where it's directed by Antoine Fuqua, who is a very talented director. So, could be good. Again, as it says, Jafar Jackson. So clearly a family relationship to Michael Jackson. Coleman Domingo is in the film. I really enjoy him. Miles Teller is in the film. Again, some really great actors in there. So that definitely has me intrigued by it. But the trailer is what keeps me from really actually looking forward to this. All right. And now, these are not in any particular order, even though it is, listed as 1 through 11. This is not necessarily I think this film is going to be better than this film. This is more of here are the films that I was like, you know what, I might actually want to check this out in the theater. All right, so the first film, number 11 on my list here, is How to Rob a Bank. So How to Rob a Bank, this is one where I looked at it and I thought, okay, wait a minute. It's directed by David Leitch. He is the person that did Bullet Train. I really liked Bullet Train. It has Nicholas Hoult in the film. John C. Reilly is in the film. You've also got people like Pete Davidson and Zoe Kravitz in it. Nicholas Hoult, honestly, was the cast that had me the most intrigued. And then the fact that David Leitch is doing it. Smart bank robbers share their heist on social media while evading the police. I just felt like it sounds like an interesting concept. And David Leitch, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly there. Again, this really is only on my list because of what he was able to do with Bullet Train. If he's able to kind of recapture that magic, I think it could be interesting. Another film on the list is Verity. And people might think, I'd never heard of this film before. Neither had I. But as soon as I was looking at this list and I saw that it's being directed by Michael Showalter, I was immediately intrigued. So it's a Dakota Johnson film. Anne Hathaway is also in it. Josh Hartnett is in the film. So you got a bunch of different people there. But Michael Showalter, people may not know of him, but he did The Wet, Hot American Summer. That was very much a part of him and one of his comedy partners, David Wayne. He and those two also with Michael Ian Black. I know Michael Ian Black is kind of, a bit of a political troglodyte at this point, but he's also, he actually is a very funny comedian. So they did a special, like their comedy troupe was called Stella, and they'd had a show that only ran for one season on Comedy Central. And it honestly, it's one of the types of humor where either you love it or you hate it. Me and my brothers loved it, and we cannot watch enough of it. We always quote it. I quote that show probably every day of my life, actually, because of some of the great stuff in there. But Michael Showalter, whenever he's attached to a project, I'm immediately interested because I do like him as a writer. I do like him as a director as well. And so I think that this actually could be interesting. It's supposed to be like a dark comedy, thriller, mystery, but with Showalter involved, it's going to have a comedic element to it as well. So because of that, I'm actually, intrigued by that one. Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Why is it on the list? As was spoiled earlier by a certain person in the chat. Honestly, it's because I'm interested to see what Blumhouse does with The Mummy. The Dark Universe was scrapped after The Mummy, literally after the movie of this same title. So it'll be interesting to see what a more realistic approach to The Mummy might actually be. Lee Cronin is known for doing more horror films, and so it'll have more of a horror dynamic versus an action hero dynamic like the Tom Cruise Mummy film had, for instance. So that's the only reason why it's on the list is, okay, maybe we might actually have a more interesting throwback to the Universal monster films of old. So that's really the only reason why it's on there. Then we got Street Fighter. The trailer for this movie was just really good. The great teaser trailer. Really cool images, great casting as well. So this might actually be a worthy follow-up to the very campy and loved for the wrong reasons original film, which is a movie actually I still need to watch all of. I've seen several clips of it. Obviously, Raul Julia in that film is just unbeatable. But the cast is honestly, I think, what sold me the most on this movie, because you got a lot of people in here. Cody Rhodes as Guile. Again, I'm a wrestling fan, so that's got me. 50 Cent as Balrog. Jason Momoa as Blanca. I mean, come on, guys. This cast is just insane. Also, David Dalsmachian, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is M. Bison. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reasons, I think, to be kind of looking forward to this, because the cast. I think the cast could make this film great. It also could be a complete trash heap as well, okay? Especially, like, visually. We'll have to wait and see. But the trailer definitely has me interested in this. It's directed by Kitao Sakurai. I don't really know what he's known for. There are some things here mentioned. This does not necessarily mean that he directed them or wrote them. It's kind of just a mishmash of random things. So it doesn't look like he has too much of a writing background. So, fingers crossed. But anyway, intrigued by the concept nonetheless. Number 7, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Really, the only reason why it's on there is because I did enjoy No Way Home. No Way Home was a very entertaining movie. It was not perfect by any means, but having Andrew Garfield back on screen, having Tobey Maguire back on screen, the member berries were strong with that one, and I think they hit the member berries just right. From the moment that you have the 3 Spider-Men on screen together, it's magic. Everything else I could probably walk away with and not ever care about ever seeing it or watching it or hearing it again. But I will oftentimes go back to watching those scenes of those Spider-Men, like of those people on screen again. And also to have this like redemption arc for Andrew Garfield, who unfortunately was in a couple of really, not great Spider-Man movies, not because of him, but because of just the film itself. I think that, that was such a cool thing. And so I'm intrigued to see what they do then with this one. And I'm hoping, I don't know anything about it, if they can bring them back in, that could be really, really cool. So member berries all the way for that one. I have no real other defense of it other than that. That's the film purely out of nostalgia, and member berries, I'm looking forward to that one. All right, next then you have Werewolf. This is a film where I hope it's good, but unfortunately, Robert Eggers is a director that, for me, is very hit and miss. I know there's people who just swear by his films. So it's a werewolf horror film set in 13th century England, so it's obviously going to be very topical. Aaron Taylor Johnson is in the film. Lily Rose Depp coming back for another film with him. Willem Dafoe is also set to be in it, at least according to the cast list listed over here on Critic List. But, Robert Eggers, for those that don't know, he did Nosferatu. I thought was vastly overrated. A lot of good stuff in there. Again, I know people will try to argue the whole, there's a reason for the sexual stuff to be in there. I'm sorry, there's never a good reason to have that stuff in there. Northman was, again, good, but not great. The Witch, couldn't really get through that one. The Lighthouse, I loved everything technically about the film, but then the actual story itself and everything about it, I was just like, nope. He always goes too weird. He always goes too bizarre. Nosferatu was probably his most mainstream film, which is why I might have enjoyed it a bit more than some of the others. But even then, it was still, still not perfect. I did give it a 75% rad score. So there was obviously still a lot of things to enjoy about the film, especially from a technical aspect. It's usually like where I am with his movies is I praise him for being a very good director, for, being able to work with his cinematographers so well. It's the writing really that I think is kind of the weaker point, unfortunately, when it comes to those things. But Werewolf, we'll see what he does with that concept. All right, so again, no real order here, but these are films that, again, I found intriguing. All right, The Pout Pout Fish. Why is that on my list? This is a story that I read to my son, all right? And I have my own random voice. I turn him into like a German. I'm a pout pout fish with a pout pout face, and I spread the dreary wearies all over the place. Blub, blub, blub. And then I add like a singing voice to that. It's the only reason why I'm interested. Nick Offerman is, I think, the voice of the Pout Pout Fish. This could be great. And if this ends up being a fun little family movie, and it's good enough to where I actually feel comfortable to bring my son to it, that could be a really cool father-son movie to watch. So that's why it's on my list, family. Number 4, Clayface. I'm one of the few people that actually really would like to see a Clayface live action, but it has to be done well. And I've said this now for years. The only way that they could really make this work is if they get the same team, or at the very least have the same mindset of the team that did Swamp Thing. Because Swamp Thing's design for their costume, for the Swamp Thing himself, was so good. It was mostly practical effects. They added some CG elements, but because most of it was practical, it looked awesome. And it was a show that was vastly underrated, sadly underviewed, got canceled way too soon. I think they could have done a lot of really cool things with it. If they go in that direction, though, where it's more of an actual like costume type thing, a very good physical practical effects story, it could be a really awesome horror mystery type movie. They could do a lot of good things with this. Do I think that's going to happen? I honestly don't. This is now the James Gunn universe. I don't trust anything from James Gunn. James Gunn has not given me any reason to trust him in anything. He butchered Superman. Peacemaker was complete trash. I mean, there's, again, nothing from his DCEU that there's anything really to like write home about. I'm not looking forward to this, even though he has very little, from what I can understand it, to do with the creative side of this. It's still attached to his universe in some way. It's still under his umbrella. It's still under his watch, even. So because of that, I have a lot of concern over it. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it ends up being better than what we expect. All right, and then we get into our, quote, top 3, but again, no real particular order here. The next film is Digger. This is a film I only recently had heard about, and for people who are like, I've never heard of this movie before, if you have any knowledge of Alejandro Iñárritu, who is a very, very talented director, this is a guy, Alejandro González Iñárritu. He has done... I actually didn't know that he was connected with Frankenstein, but he did the film The Revenant. He also was a part of Birdman and Gravity. He always makes these beautiful looking movies, all right, these beautiful films, and they're always, in my opinion, at the very least, very compelling. So whenever he's attached to something, I'm immediately interested to see what he's going to be able to do with it, all right? So that's where that happened. Okay. So, but again, from the moment, Birdman, Revenant, Gravity, of course, those are films that I really enjoyed in the theater. So I'm actually really much looking forward to this. Now, I imagine he'll probably also bring his cinematographer with him as well. And his cinematographer, just to show you how good he works with his team, his cinematographer won an Oscar for Best Cinematography 3 years in a row. And it was all for directing movies by him, if memory serves me correctly. Let me go ahead and pull up that once again and see if they have it listed. Man, this is what Critic List. I love Critic List so much, but they just leave so much out. They just leave so much out. All right, let's see. Gravity. Actually, no, scratch that. Sorry about that. Gravity was not his film. This is why I do it live, everybody, because then I can correct myself. That was actually done by Alfonso Cuarón. My bad. Alfonso Cuarón. But it was Emmanuel Lubezki. I think he did win 3 years in a row, though. Let me go ahead and look back at that again. Yeah, that's right. So he worked first. Okay, that's where I got it mixed up in my head. Okay, so he worked on Gravity with Alfonso Cuarón. He then worked on Birdman with Alejandro Iñárritu, and then he worked again with him on The Revenant. So it was 2 films in a row he worked with him on instead. So he's coming back once again to do the cinematography for Digger. So I'm very excited. I love Alejandro Iñárritu as a director. I think he's very talented. But again, even more so, I like Emmanuel Lubezki. Also, a fun little fact, he worked with Mike Nichols to do the cinematography for The Birdcage. Fussy. There's some beautiful camera work in that movie if you actually pay attention to it. Not that you watch that film for the cinematography, but a lot of technical things as to why I'm excited for that. Also, as you saw from the cast list, If you were able to read it for the quick time that was on there, Tom Cruise is in the film. John Goodman's in the film. Jesse Plemons is in the film. Riz Ahmed is in the film. Let's see, who else? I'm sure there's some people that might not even be listed on here that are also in it. There's a lot of reasons, though. It says, the most powerful man in the world embarks on a frantic mission to prove he is humanity's savior before the disaster he's unleashed destroys everything. Now, obviously, could this be a case of, man, this is trying to, potentially connect it back to modern day times? Maybe. But Tom Cruise usually has projects and picks projects that are not overtly political, and so I have a lot of reason to think that this actually could be pretty good. Then The Odyssey, it's Nolan. I don't think the film's going to be great necessarily. He, again, also has an inconsistent track record, but you can always expect a quality production. I think the cinematography on this movie is going to be gorgeous. I think the production design of this film is going to be gorgeous, as it is for all of his movies. I hope the sound design's good, because it wasn't good for Tenet. And as you can see, the only film that I'm actually genuinely excited for, other than maybe Godzilla Minus Zero, if it comes out next year, is Project Hail Mary. This is a film that just has so much to be excited for. It's a mystery sci-fi, action adventure. You got Lord and Miller as the directors of the film, Drew Goddard as a writer of the screenplay. You have Ryan Gosling in the film, and it's adapting a very popular novel. Science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up on a spaceship light years from home with no recollection of who he is or how he got there. As his memory returns, he begins to uncover his mission, solve the riddle of the mysterious substance causing the sun to die out. He must call into scientific knowledge and orthodox ideas to save everything on Earth from extinction, but unexpected friendship means he may not have to do it alone. I think this is the same writer who did The Martian, and The Martian was one of my favorite movies the year that it came out. And it was mostly because of the story. So the same writer, he has a very good grasp of how to balance drama with comedy. He was able to produce something similar here. Again, I've not read the book myself. It's on my list of things to try to read through before the movie comes out. But this is actually the only one that I'm genuinely looking forward to, to see this thing opening night in an actual theater, other than what I mentioned previously. But anyway, those are my anticipated films. Probably a lot more than you were expecting. Even though not a whole lot's coming out next year. Again, only one film really am I actually looking forward to. Maybe two if Godzilla comes out. All right, let's head back into the chat. Wendy Hunter 73 saying, that was the one thing that was hard working at Regal, explaining to the patrons that we have no control of the movies that we show. Yeah, and that's also why the hardest thing actually for me was actually to explain the popcorn pricing. Justin C. trying to say evening and RIP to Bridget Bardot. Mr. Roy saying the only film in 2026 that seems interesting is Project Hail Mary. Boom, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. I agree. It's adapted from a book written by Andy Weir, the same person who wrote The Martian. That's the only reason why it's the only film really I'm looking forward to. Great minds think alike, Mr. Roy. Laura saying here, since movies are so bad lately, I usually just go into Fandango and search for Anniversary to see what classic movies are playing. I don't blame you. Lady Tharp of Lady Tharp of Hastings, Godzilla Minus Zero is the only movie that I'm looking forward to next year. Yeah, definitely would be up there for me. Luke Zilla says Variety updated the budget to Fire and Ash, $350 million and $150 million for marketing. I don't know if you saw it or not when I tagged you over to Discord, just thought it was interesting. Yeah, here's the issue, is that's what Variety is claiming. That's not an official financial disclosure. And we honestly won't know those budgets probably ever, because I don't think those films shot in the United Kingdom. If they did, we would probably find out the reality of it, which is that they probably spent upwards of $400 million. Marketing, probably a lot more than that. But even with $150 million, even if we assume $150 million for marketing, that would still be more than your average for a film of that size. And also remembering that they don't get 100% of the profits of the film because of their split with James Cameron and his studio. That's still not a lot of profit for them. Shorty Short saying, X-Men ruined the word whiplash for me. No! Geek Truth. It's funny, I gave Whiplash a shot after Jeremy Jahns had it as his #1 movie of the year that year. Nice! I was so happy I was in on that film early on. And if you've never seen the short film either, the short film's also really, really good. A couple of different actors. It's fun to actually see who who are the actors in the short film and how some of them kept their role in the official full-length feature film, and then which roles got recasted, and then some people got shuffled around. So people who were in the short film that had no name were still kept on by the director when he got access to a bit more money and to bigger names. It was kind of cool to see that. Wendy Hunter saying, I think Whiplash has one of my favorite. It is honestly one of the best cinematic endings of all. I would actually say of all time. And it's simply because of how they build the tension and everything. Like, even just thinking about it, I get goosebumps. So good. Maggie Dreamer, what's going on, man? Saying, hey, Odin, looking forward to mostly to see Scarlet. I actually hadn't heard of that. I can only imagine too. I don't do that. It just sounds like the typical faith-based stuff, man. Project Hail Mary, agree. Mario Galaxy, I didn't like the first one, to be honest. Some of the voice acting to me is not good. Jack Black is playing Jack Black as Bowser. No, thank you. Donkey Kong, I'm sorry. Seth Rogen's not a donkey. There's just so much of that. It was just like, ugh, schlop. Master of the Universe, Michael biopic, maybe. Odyssey. And then Godzilla Minus Zero. Yeah, I would agree with that. Caveat Ties, what's going on? Kaylee Chow, what is going on? Razvan Mihanu. Avatar 3 goes Avatar 2, but more whalers. More whalers. More. Oh, man. All right. Guillermo Gage, thank you for the $5 donation via, thank you for the $5 Rumble rant, saying, I meant simps, not subs or subscribers, as a cheeky thing. Even as non-literal sense, you aren't like that. Odin being a family man, being fruitful, nuclear family is based. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Keely Chow had to say, hey, Odin, how are you? Thor, Freya, Baby Sif doing? How was your weekend? Also, what did you have on dinner for Friday night? So I think we still ended up having pizza. We were spending time with family. We went to go see the lights at the zoo. So that's why I wasn't on FNT this past weekend, because family comes first. And it was lovely. It was a lovely time. But yeah, I think we still ended up having pizza because it's part of the routine. Luke Zilla. Villeneuve wanted to make her character more nuanced. Stupid decision, but it's also funny that they are sticking to the book with her story in Messiah, which took place 12 to 20 years later. Yeah. And again, makes no sense. Zandelli. More. Exactly. Do some say math? Almost. We're almost there. I did do some math earlier, and I should have done it then, but... okay, we've got some more Avatar Sims in the chat. Rasvan. Again, if you have a comment or question, what read aloud, please put @Odin at the very beginning. If you have it, @Odin. Let's see. Geek64 saying, we will always disagree on Avatar 1, but that's cool. I do agree with you on physical media. I picked up Avatar 2 on Blu-ray 3D for the visual showing, one of the last Blu-ray 3D releases. But here's the other thing. James Cameron is the reason why that ever became a thing, and I think it's the dumbest thing ever. That's just me. Forever Sci-Fi, who was a member saying, I looked at the list of movies coming out in 2026 and I wish I hadn't. Practical Magic 2? Just why? Angry Birds 3? Jumanji 4? Super Troopers 3? I know. There are some, oof. Oh my goodness gracious. Story Short saying, Odin is full of holiday cheer today. Always. Hardwick, what is the Ravens nomination deadline? I think I had a rough deadline. Listed in the, or at least I thought I did. Maybe I did. I can't check that right now. But it's going to be within the first. Basically, the way to always go by is look at the, because we're trying to boycott the Oscars, right? So if you look at when the Oscars nominations are coming out, it'll be that Thursday or Friday of the weekend before. All right. So. Don't know off the top of my head, though, and mentally cannot look it up right now. Short saying Godzilla minus 0 equals Godzilla. I know, right? I know. Oh, let's see here. Maggie Dreamer to say, yeah, I'm so excited about Madden 2. The only downside is that it's going straight to streaming on Prime Video. Would love to see it in theater. Oh, okay. I'm a little less excited about that now, but still, still got to be excited about that casting. Prince Screen, David O. Russell sounds like a bit of a weird guy from everything I've heard about him. Yeah. Hardwick saying, to be fair, George Orwell was a communist. He intended Animal Farm as a criticism of Stalinism, not all communism. That's why the initial revolution is depicted as good in the book. Justin C., do you think seeing the finale of Stranger Things in a packed theater is worth it to be a part of what could be the last big pop culture impact show, so to speak? I don't think so. After the last episode that they gave us, no, I don't think so. I don't think you should give them any extra money. If you're already paying for a Netflix subscription, I don't think you should give them extra money in a theater, to be perfectly frank. Because that last episode was so bad. Caveat ties. American Hustle was nothing but Christian Bale showing off how fat he got. Pretty much. It's like, we get it, man. You are a method actor and you commit to your parts. We get it. Hardwick, that said, the movie is going explicitly anti-capitalist in a way the book wasn't. That was the whole point of what I said, Matt, of Hardwick. Thank you. Lady Tharp saying, Madden looked interesting. I may watch it. Casting at the very least. Geek True 64. Godzilla Minus Zero would be my most anticipated film if it comes out in 2026. Otherwise, it's probably The Odyssey. I get that. Forever Sci-Fi Michael is just part one. They actually made it into 2 movies. Ugh, okay, now I'm a little less excited. Jeremy Zakowski. I do think Godzilla Minus Zero will be likely to release on November 6th on Godzilla Day, but we shall see. It really depends on, based off of the people making the movie, it's the same people behind Godzilla Minus One. They came in with a very modest budget, but he's also doing most of the visual effects himself. Like, it's a very self-contained, the fact they were able to do as much as they did with so few people is amazing, okay? But still, now it's bigger. Now the money behind is going to be like, oh, we want more, right? So how much longer is that going to take? Are they going to take the same steps? Are they going to take a few different steps? Is the technology now, even just a couple years later after the other film, updated enough to, maybe he can do more with it? I don't know. So could take longer? It's less likely to be delayed than a major Hollywood studio production, right? Because those can go through production delays like no one's business, especially because of unions and other things like it, right? Japan probably not as impacted by stuff like that. Doesn't have the same issues in that capacity. Obviously, a lot cheaper to make movies there. So, Hardwick, Sam Raimi's new movie Send Help is coming out in 2026. It's being described as a cross between Castaway and Misery and stars Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams. Okay. Maybe. Morak, my 10+1 is Project Hail Mary, most anticipated. I will be there on day 1. I get that. And then the rest, in no particular order. Mercy, Coyote vs. Acme, Super Troopers 3, Michael. Dude, okay, Super Troopers 3, Super Troopers True. Man, no. Super Troopers 1 is so good. And then Super Troopers 2 came out years later, and it wasn't good, man. It was such a... It was a shadow of its former self. I have no desire to see Super Troopers 3, man. Michael, Dune 3, Normal, Young Washington, The Odyssey, The Breadwinner. The +1 is Godzilla Minus Zero. Yeah, absolutely. Hardwick. Do you hear about the recent song sung Blue starring Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson? It's based on the true story of Neil Diamond tribute band. Chris Gore said it's very good. That's what I've been hearing. But I'll be honest. A movie about a Neil Diamond tribute band isn't the biggest sell for me. Prince Screen, hopefully the new Mummy doesn't go the direction of this year's Wolfman. That would be... Yes, and that's why it's not really a film I'm looking forward to, but hey. Wendy Hunter saying, I agree with you on Street Fighter. Yes. Morak, I forgot about Street Fighter. That should have been on my list. Yeah, I saw it too, and I was like, wait a minute. This has some potential. Prince Screen, Street Fighter looks like some ridiculous fun, plus I like to see Andrew Koji in more movies. Nice. Hardwick, I didn't realize that there's also a Blumhouse Mummy movie being made. I only heard about the one Universal is making with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz from the directors of Ready or Not. Yeah, I don't think that's coming out next year, though. Sahil, what's going on, Sahil? Saying here, you'll be happy to know that on Christmas Eve, I went to a Catholic church for the first time ever for midnight mass. I grew up Muslim, but am not very religious now. Simply wanted to experience it. Well, I hope that it was a beautiful experience. I also went to midnight mass, and I hope that it was, as beautiful as mine was, and stirrings of the heart. Pray for you, Sahil. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, man. Mr. Roy, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat movie in 2026, the 90s are back. Yeah, but the Mortal Kombat film I am not looking for. The last film that came out was just not good. People have this rose-tinted view of that movie, and I just remember at the time when it came out, it wasn't really much of anything. Mike Dreamer, I would love to have the Clayface film be centered story-wise like he was done in the Batman animated series. Agreed. That would be a banger. And honestly, Mikey Dreamer, it's Batman the Animated Series, their whole episode on Clayface. That is the reason why. Because that's one of my favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series. So that's what sold me on it. If they can do it right, it could be awesome. But that's a big if. Kelly Chow, I watched it on the CW and agree it was canceled way too soon. Talking there about Swamp Thing. Let's see. Hardwick saying, do you own a Blu-ray of Lady Hawk? Yes. I believe it was gifted because I remember watching it. Interestingly enough. Wendy Hunter, who was a member, saying, Digger has a good cast, so fingers crossed it is good. Agreed. Prince Green Digger might be interesting, but I would have to see a full trailer before I really got excited. I'd see Tom Cruise in a non-action movie. Agreed. Key Truth saying, Project Hail Mary is my number 2 anticipated after The Odyssey. I love The Martian. 2015 was such a good year for films. It really was. And no, man, Odyssey, some of the casting of The Odyssey keeps that from ever getting close to my number 1 most anticipated. Forever Sci-Fi, I wonder if before theaters go out of business, thanks to this nonsense, they'll become seasonal, like only summer and winter. That would be interesting, but then the question is, I guess, what do you do with the theater after? Because that's still, you're still paying property taxes, you're still paying, so like, that's the big question mark, is what do you do with it? You can't just sit there. So basically theaters, and you already see some theaters starting to do this, they're going to start to have to adapt and change up the business model and try to come up with ways to make it. Honestly, if they were to actually spend enough time making all of their seats comfortable, good seats, meaning all having good views of the screen, and if they were to spend more time focusing on the theater experience, making sure the sound is working properly, making sure the bulbs in the theater are working properly. Can't tell you how many times I've gone to a movie where the bulb is about to die and it's blinking and flickering and it's driving me mad because most people probably don't even notice it, but I do. So, yeah. I could have gone on more with that, but if they focus on that stuff, I know that would bring me back more often. Not to mention if they had like even a movie sitter to make sure people were off their phones, to make sure all of the all the children that are out oftentimes, disrupting movies and stuff. Luke Zilla. Godzilla Minus Zero will most likely be 2026 because Legendary has their own movie in 2027, and it's the contract both companies can't release movies in the same year. Maybe. And you know what? Only one of those is going to be actually a good film, and it's not going to be the Legendary one. I'll tell you that much. Hardwick, I just looked up to see what Scarlet is, and it's apparently an anime movie based on Hamlet, with a time-traveling princess trying to avenge her father's murder. Kelly Chow, nice. I agree family does come first. In my Heath Ledger voice, you got kids! Mike Dreamer, Scarlet is an anime, same director who did Belle and Mirai. Oh, okay. Zondelli, early night for me. Bye, all bye. Hardwick, I'm actually looking forward to Jumanji 4 because the ending of the third one set up an interesting premise. The Avatar is coming into the real world, interacting with the kids. You're giving it way too much credit, man. Mikey Dreamer, January 22nd, 2026 is the date for Oscar nominations. So it'll be, the 19th then? Because I want to say I put it in the actual ballot. So that way, because I knew that I would likely forget. Dude, if it's in the ballot, Hardwick, if it's in the ballot, and you ask me for no reason, flames on the side of my face, because now I'm distracted, because now I have to check it for myself. 1566 is the passcode. Let us see. Nominations remain open until the middle of January, when nominations are announced and the voting for the winners begins. I know that's not an actual date, but context, man. I knew I put something in there. Hardwick always coming in here, not paying attention. It's like the kid in class who raises their hand, asks a question. It's like, bro, I just talked about it, man. Gilly Chow just says, yes. Remember Sci-Fi, Batman the Animated Series made me like the ventriloquist as a character. Geek Truth, yes, those 2 Clayface episodes of Batman the Animated Series were the best of the series. Was creeped out as a kid watching it. Yeah, especially when he is brought into like the the television control room, and he has all of the different performances on screen being shown, and then all of a sudden he just starts to morph into each one. Oh, so good. Hardwick, why do you think it is that Christopher Nolan went so diverse with his casting for The Odyssey when he revisited that in his previous period pieces? It's so hard to say. But Christopher Nolan, I think, with Oppenheimer, kind of showed himself, in my opinion, at the very least, to be losing it. I think he is a shadow of his former self. Geetrue64. Honestly, the sound in the theaters is pretty mixed now, too. My home system with 5.1 surround is better most of the time, unless I see a movie in IMAX that is peak. Yeah. Justin C. 2026 feels like more of a sequel reboot-itis. Ready or Not 2 does interest me a little, though. I almost put that on my list, but then I noticed that it's like 2 female lead characters. And it's like, okay, the first film was intriguing because, yes, you have a female protagonist, but it all makes sense within the story and everything like that. Now it sounds like, okay, now is it going to be a complete girl boss movie? Because that's not balanced, and no thank you. Geek True64 saying here, out here throwing out a nice Clue reference, Flames. Thank you, Geek Truth, for picking up on that. I knew you and Laura would be able to pick up on that. Flames, side of my face. Carnal saying, you're not wrong about audiences carrying rose-tinted glasses for Mortal Kombat 2021. 'Twas a bad year for film releases. Yes, it was a really bad year. Obviously, it was post-COVID, and so you had a lot of films that were like delayed and other things, but it was not good. I don't know why people just remember it. Hardwick, I think a lot of the hype over the next Mortal Kombat movie is because of Carl Urban in the film definitely is intriguing. I'm not sold on him, though, in that role. I'm going to be honest. I like him a lot as an actor. I have to see a little bit more, though, before I'm sold on him in that character. All right. We are getting near the end of the stream, and we haven't talked officially. This is the latest, I think, that we'll ever have this play. And Kincaid and Rumsky, I don't know if you're here, because I hope that the Rumble stream is working. I think it is, because obviously we had some Rumble rants earlier, so I don't know what I'm saying there, but I apologize, Kincaid and Rumsky, if you're watching this back and you're like, where is my math? Guys, we got it.
Time to see a real math magician at work.
That's right, everybody. It's time for some late edition math and to see a real math magician at work. So this past weekend, obviously, we had an interesting mixture of films. Anaconda, first off, the remake that nobody asked for, which at least had a good, I would say at the very least entertaining trailer that piqued a lot of people's interest, I think. But apparently it's trash. Apparently it's awful. It made about $43.4 million, more than I think I would have expected it to make, to be perfectly frank, but not likely to hold as well because of some of the bad word of mouth going around with the film. We'll see next weekend, though, for sure what will happen. But really, the big story of the weekend is about the battle that's raging between Avatar: Fire and Ash and Zootopia 2. Now, I did make a mistake in my box office breakdown, and I corrected it in the video. That's why I like to do things live. I had said it was Zootopia 2's third weekend, when in fact it was its fifth weekend, and that does make a difference. But Zootopia 2 is at $1.4 billion. Now, 539 plus of that is from China, so that's a pretty big factor. But that in and of itself already points to why I think Fire and Ash is going to have a very difficult time catching up. Because if you look at what the film has done, okay, what the film has done in China, talking about Fire and Ash here, Fire and Ash is so far behind the pace that there's no way it's going to catch the China numbers for Zootopia 2. Where it is catching up quite a bit, I would argue, is in the rest of the international world. Because if you look at the rest of the international, without China, right, $468 million has been made by Fire and Ash in just a couple weekends. Whereas Zootopia 2, in 5 weekends, has only made $562 million in every other country outside of China. So much of the box office for Zootopia 2 is really being propped up by that massive, and I would say unbelievable number coming from the Chinese box office market, at least the reports of them. You add on top of that where Fire and Ash is domestically, $216 million, Zootopia 2 currently at $221 million, and you have a case where Fire and Ash is likely to catch up with Zootopia 2. And I would actually say, don't be surprised if Fire and Ash matches or exceeds the international of Zootopia 2 by the end of next weekend without China. That is, of course, going to be the big distinguishing factor, okay? Is that whereas Fire and Ash is looking right now to perform much better than Zootopia 2 in many of the international markets that is currently being released in, it is not going to be able to find the same level of success in China, and therefore it has a massive hole that it's going to have to overtake. If we're looking at Avatar Fire and Ash on track to be at what? At this pace, maybe $150 million, $200 million in China, and Zootopia 2 likely to keep on adding, maybe getting north of 600. Zootopia 2 has the chance of being the highest grossing Western film release in the history of China. The only film I think it has left to beat is Avengers Endgame, which was massive, like 600 plus million in China alone, okay? It's looking like it might actually be able to do that. It might actually be able to pull that off, okay? But that also then means that if for the total box office is concerned, Fire and Ash is at a massive disadvantage, okay? That would mean that Zootopia 2 will have a $400 million advantage from one country alone. Now, as I said, it's going to make up some ground in the other countries. It already is in many ways. It'll also likely make up some ground domestically, though Zootopia 2 is no slouch. Zootopia 2 had an increase, 33% increase in its box office this weekend after 5 weekends. That's a massive increase for a film that far out from its initial release. That doesn't happen very often. It's very rare. So clearly, Zootopia 2 is selling very well, and I imagine that the sales are continuing on as many people are still off from school, and there are many people that might also still be off from work, though many people did go back to work today. So we'll see what those numbers are going to start looking like. To me, the most interesting thing, though, is when you compare the numbers of Fire and Ash to The Way of Water. Because as I mentioned in both my article on geeksgamers.com and in my video, Fire and Ash is tracking behind Way of Water by 13% globally. At the same point in the same weekend, Way of Water was already at $881 million. All right? $881 million. What that tells us then is it's tracking 13% behind. That is an improvement from last weekend, where it was 20% behind in its opening weekend versus Way of Water. But it also means that it is not likely then going to catch up in the various marketplaces either. And if we take those things into account and we do some math on this, I mentioned this in my video, if you look at what most films tend to do after 2 weeks, Avatar is in its own level. All right, Avatar doesn't follow the historical trends. It does its own thing. They have very strong legs with Avatar movies. They tend to make, 4 to 5 times their opening weekend, all right, domestically at the very least. We're likely going to see something very similar happen with Fire and Ash. The trends seem to be going in that direction. The issue, of course, is it had a much smaller starting point, which means it doesn't matter how good your holds are. If you're holding from a much smaller number, that means you have a long way to go to actually be able to make up for the differential between those two things. In addition to that, we're talking about a film in Fire and Ash that is ultimately not tracking well enough to be able to overcome the success of the second film in the franchise. So what we're likely going to find in the box office as it moves forward is that Fire and Ash is going to keep on doing better than the typical historical films. Right? Most films tend to make around, let's just say in a best case scenario historically, films usually double their total box office in a best case scenario from their second weekend of release. Most films, however, fall around 70% or 60%, meaning the total box office, the first 2 weekends globally account for roughly 60 to 70% of the entirety of their box office end. If that happens, that would mean Fire and Ash would only make between $1 billion and maybe $1.5 billion. But because Avatar is not like other films, it does not follow those same historical trends. If we then take what Way of Water did, when Way of Water came out, it was tracking to make 1.3 to 1.7 billion, ended up making around 2.3 billion instead. So if we look at those numbers and we see, okay, how does an Avatar film compare to the standard, compare to the historical trend, and how do we take those same numbers, extrapolate the data points there, and apply that to the potential future of this movie? And it only gets this movie to roughly $1.9 billion. So we're looking at a film that will likely end between 1.8 and $2 billion when all is said and done, if it follows the same trend. But even then, when you look at the first Avatar film doing like a 12x, making 12 times its opening weekend domestically, the last film making 5+ X, that's still a massive drop in total box office over time domestically. And we are still looking at numbers here that for Disney are not looking any better. It is true that they're going to see some money from this, but they're not going to see as much as you would think. They're not profitable yet. Now, again, this is co-financed by James Cameron and his production company and Disney as well. Disney also is distributor of the film, so they get money from the distribution deals. They also pay for the marketing for the film too. So Disney has to make a lot more money, or the film rather has to make a lot more money before Disney actually gets any of that as far as net gains profits. And also they have to then take that against their own marketing budget as well, which means they've got a long way to go before Disney sees any profit from this particular individual release. Whereas Zootopia 2, yes, it has 2 weeks advantage, but I don't think in 2 weeks, I don't think in 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to see Avatar at the same level. And it's not because it's not going to be performing as well domestically internationally. It's because of just how well the film Zootopia 2 is doing in China. That is going to be the biggest factor here. So whereas Zootopia 2 is tracking to get like 1.6 to 1.8 billion by the end of its run, yes, overall Avatar is still trending towards maybe a 1.8 to 2 billion. It's going to be very close. And I think the deciding factor is going to be China. How well does Fire and Ash do in the long run in China versus how much more money is there in China for Zootopia 2? So, anyway, wanted to make sure we got our box office conversation in before we wrapped up the stream tonight, going a little bit longer than usual. Let's see. Wendy Hunter saying, that's the stuff. Yes, indeed. Gandalf. Kimberly G saying, should have been Glenn Powell for Johnny Cage. Agreed. He has the personality. He has the look. He should have been the one cast. I like Carl Urban. He's great. He's a bit old, I think, for that character, to be honest. Mr. Roy likes the math. Hardwick, did you hear about Jennifer Lopez and Jennifer Lopez's cameo in the new Anaconda? I didn't, and I just don't care. Frank G says, crazy how only Wicked, Friday Nights at Freddy's 2, and Zootopia are in the black. I know. Because when you look at the numbers, right, Friday Nights at Freddy's is a film that's being just really pushed by the fan base. It's not bringing a whole lot of new audiences in. That fan base is very passionate, though, and so they're able to drive that film to profits. Zootopia 2 obviously is great profit-wise. Wicked for Good just broke even, made profit. We expected it to, but obviously that film still not nearly as successful as they were probably hoping it to be. But then, yeah, you have a bunch of films that are not. I mean, Shelby Oaks technically broke even, but return on investment, it was terrible when you compare it to other horror films, especially. The Black Phone 2 was able to leg out to be able to break even. Regretting You did much better down the line, down the stretch. So it only ended up as like a $1.4 million loss, but VOD sales probably could make up for that. And that's the case with a couple of the films on here, right? Where you're like, okay, maybe VOD sales, Blu-ray sales, physical media sales might be able to account for and make up for any of the losses. But some of them are just beyond help, right? You're talking about The Running Man, 131 million in losses. Predator Badlands, 72. Remember when everyone was saying, oh, that's such a successful movie? $17 million in losses there. That film did not leg out. That film was not as popular as the fans of it wanted people to think it was. The numbers clearly prove that. The Springsteen biopic, Tron Ares, $200+ million in losses for Disney. One Battle After Another. Again, probably the Oscar film to beat this year, but luckily we have the Raven Awards and we don't care about the Oscars. 136 million in losses, though, for that movie. So as good as it's doing for a film like it, is what it is. Wendy Hunter saying, Odin chat, thanks for a great stream. Have a good night. Yeah, we're wrapping things up here. Last Relic. What's up, brother? What's going on, Last Relic? Welcome back. Black Phone would have done better if it was called... Sure. Geek True 64. Thanks for the stream, Odin. Always keeps me engaged while editing my own videos. Happy New Year. How can you even edit if you're so engaged? That's what I want to know, because I couldn't do it. But that's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. This is our last stream of 2025. So we won't have another stream here on this channel until the next year. And we obviously will have some box office videos. So on the new year, the second day of the new year, January 2nd, we will have our box office preview for the weekend. And guess what, guys? We've talked about our most anticipated movies of the year. And what I can say is that the vast majority of them, if any of them, are not being released in January. Maybe there was one or two. I didn't really look at the release dates for the films, but this is just, again, that friendly reminder. January is the month where films go to die. We like to say that here on the channel, just to remind everyone that as awesome as the gems that come out of January rarely, but sometimes can happen, and sometimes they can be pretty good. Oftentimes we just get leftover schlock and schlop coming from the studios, and so just be ready for that. It's gonna be a very cold winter, Batman. Very cold winter, and a very lonely one, I would say, as well, as far as movies to look forward to. Luckily, got a lot of TV to look forward to. A lot of good TV on right now, even. Landman. Oh, Landman's so good. Again, I don't like the sexual stuff in there. There's also a lot of that in there, but luckily, there's also a lot more others. There's a lot of other stuff in there too, and there's a lot worse things out there when it comes to that kind of stuff. But man, Landman has been so much fun to watch, despite, like, again, those issues throughout. But oh man, at least there's some TV. I got Knights of the Seven Kingdoms, obviously, is one that I think is also going to be pretty good too. And then if you are actually looking forward to it, on the 31st, we have the end of Stranger Things. I'm just happy for the series to end. I remember there was a time when I was like, man, I want the series to go on forever, right? The first couple of seasons. And then by season 3, you start to realize, okay, they're starting to kind of fall into this lull period. There's a couple of cool ideas here and there. But I say that last episode, I think, broke it. I did not think that Stranger Things would actually have a, season 8 Game of Thrones type episode, but yep, they did. And it is, I think, going to tarnish the legacy, and I think is going to overall impact their total numbers. It's still going to be big, guys, all right? Normies are not going to care as much about it. But the fact you're hearing a lot more about that episode versus, your typical stuff that happens in that sphere, I think that says a lot about kind of, where people are. Because there's other issues, too, beyond just the whole scene with Will. And say, I don't like girls. It's so cringe, so bad. And then they try to say, oh yeah, they spent hours trying to get it right. I'm like, that doesn't make it any better. That doesn't make it any better. In fact, that makes it worse. And it just makes me feel bad for those kids. I know that they're not kids anymore, right? They're adults now, but still, it's ridiculous. That being said, Landman's good, and there is some stuff to look forward to, kind of, sort of. But anyway, that's gonna be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. So thank y'all very much for watching this evening. Always great to have y'all in the chat. Oh, wait, there's some last comments here. So Keely Chow saying, thank you for a great show. Hey, thanks for staying, Keely Chow. Not often that you stay. Prince Green saying, good night all, and a blessed new year. Gage64, I switch back and forth, keep things from getting boring while editing. I need 2 things engaging me. Boo, there you go. Last Relic, I only do one a week. That's all I can really handle at this point. Forever Sci-Fi, Happy New Year to all. Caveat Ties, have a great night all. Yeah, Happy Early New Year. Mr. Roy, goodbye. Gilly Chow says you're welcome. Lady Tharp, good night and Happy New Year. And yes, indeed, won't see y'all until the new year. Good night all. Gilly Chow, hang out. Thank you for hanging out. Caveat Ties says, no ice cream. I don't have any ice cream. I wish I did. Pluribus just finished. Yeah, Pluribus. It was pretty good, but on Apple, so limited audience. It's from Vince Gilligan. Yeah, I did watch Pluribus. I wish they had made the main character different. I'll just put it there. There's some really cool stuff in there, but yeah. Hardwick, in your opinion, what is the best place to stop watching Stranger Things? I haven't watched any of it yet. I've heard some people say it's the best to stop watching it. Yeah, I mean, season 1, you're safe. Season 1's solid. I would even say season 2, you're probably okay too. After that, I would have to sit down and actually go through the episodes again. But I just remember the first season just was very, very strong. Cavatai saying, they be your age. They're not my age, dude. No. No, they are not. I am much older. I say that. I'm not old. I'm 37. I'm not old. They're all in their early 20s. Maybe a couple of them are in their late teens or early. I think almost all of them are early 20s. I know at least the actress that plays Elle is in her early 20s. And it's kind of crazy that they've been doing the show so long, though, right? That they were actual kids on the show, and now they're young adults. That's also why it's also weird when a character like Will comes out. It's just what? Again, you can say, oh, well, we knew from the very first season, but there was nothing in the actual show that really demonstrated that. It was people like reading into it, and then they decided to like run with it instead. It was so stupid. So stupid. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, everybody. Thank you all very much for watching. This has been a ton of fun. Hope you all had a wonderful evening. I hope that you all have a blessed New Year. And again, Merry Christmas. It's the 5th day of Christmas, everybody. 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. By the way, if you don't know, that song was actually put together as a way of teaching the Catholic faith during a time of persecution. Look it up. The more you know. The more you know. So I've been singing that every morning as we add on to those days. But you guys are awesome. I'm going to go play some Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders has been so much fun. Matt Levine, I bet you've checked out a long time ago, man. If you're still watching, though, if you play Arc Raiders, hit me up, man. We can play some duos. Go take on the Matriarch or something. The Matriarch games have been so much fun. And I'll just say this. Any Arc Raiders fans out there, I had this dude. We finished a Matriarch run. He was talking all about how he loved the sound of his weapon. And it's called the Equalizer. And he was like, man, I love the sound it makes. And I'm like, dude, I hope to have one of those one day. This guy just runs up to me, and then we're at the extract. He just walks around to me and says, hey, man, here you go. Drops a blueprint for the Equalizer. I love this game. Like, playing the solo, too, people are often so much nicer. There's like a handful of people that have been jerks. There was one guy that literally, we were in a Matriarch round at Blue Gate, and there were 5 of us all held up in the reinforced area, and I forget the official name of it, but the guy comes in and then takes all of us out. This rat comes in and takes all 5 of us who are trying to fight the Matriarch out, and it's just like, dude, seriously? That was the worst one. I've had a couple others where they've taken me out for no reason. It happens. People play the game differently. But, dude, that was like one of my last experiences was getting an Equalizer blueprint, and then playing the next game with that actual weapon was awesome. So anyway, I'm going to go do that. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Continue to have a Merry Christmas. I hope you all have a blessed New Year as this is about to come out. Watch some Twilight Zone. It's always fun to watch Twilight Zone with the marathon going on every year. My family always got into the marathon as well. We have some favorite episodes. Talking Tina is one of my mom's favorites. I've always loved Time Enough at Last is always a top episode for me. And, oh man, The Obsolete Man might be my all-time favorite, though. There's just so much good stuff in The Obsolete Man, especially about the state and communism and so much else. So anyway, Geek Truth, yes. Yes, Geek Truth knows what's up. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, everybody. I'm going to go now. Have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, and rest of your year. And as always, God bless. Blessed feast of St. Thomas Becket. God bless you all. And now let me give a shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my Patreon members, Father Luca Illick, hail to you, Father, and also to Miss Mountain Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Mountain Muses. She is very lovely, great, awesome Catholic faith-based content over there. You'll also find over on Subscribestar my member Matt317. He is on Twitch with the same channel name, Matt317. Shout out to you, good sir. And also to a longtime member here, Mr. Roy, my Chosen of Valhalla member here on YouTube. Mr. Roy, thank you for always hanging out and for always being a part of this channel. It does mean a lot, as well as it does for all of my Chosen of Valhalla members. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream or video, or if you want it listed in that list that was playing just before, just now, check out the top link in the video description below. You'll find out how to get those types of shout outs at the end of every live stream and video. Not to mention, you get access to bonus video content and also access to a Discord server where there are a couple of channels on there where I do giveaways every single month. In fact, I do multiple giveaways every single month. I try to make it so that I'm giving away Blu-rays and 4Ks that make up at least 4 or 5 different giveaways. Sometimes I have to put them in all towards the very end because back in the school session, of course, now means that I'm going to be a little bit more delayed there. So if you want access to things like that, if you want access to a great community, you guys seriously are all amazing and beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.